Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking at something pretty special. We've got a collection of 10 uh, heartwarming stories,
Yeah.
all from X. And, they really showcase that kind of spark of human connection that just gives you those warm fuzzies.
It's interesting. We often talk about all the downsides of social media, but stuff like this, these moments, they really remind us that it can be a powerful tool for sharing stories that, well, that inspire, that uplift you.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so this first story that really grabbed me takes us all the way to South Africa, where a young girl, Kagamatso, received a gift that ended up changing her life.
Yeah, this one really hit me hard. Kagamatsu is just 10 years old, and she'd been relying on her grandmother to help her get around, which, was a huge strain on the elderly woman. And then activists from Build One South Africa came in and gifted Kagamatsu a wheelchair.
Wow, can you imagine the joy, the relief for both of them? It's just such a beautiful example of how a community can rally around its members and make a real tangible difference.
Yeah, and it really highlights how something as simple as mobility can have such a huge impact on someone's life, especially a child.
Right. Like suddenly a whole world of possibilities opens up.
Exactly.
Speaking of simple acts with big impact, this next story is about a trash collector who went the extra mile for his biggest fan.
This one's so pure. It's about this 3-year-old kid who would get so excited every week when the garbage truck would come by. And the trash collector, he noticed this and actually started adjusting his route so that, he wouldn't disappoint the little guy.
I mean, how heartwarming is that? It wasn't about recognition or anything. It was just a genuine act of kindness that, probably made that child whole week.
It really speaks to the power of noticing the little things and taking the time to, well, to make someone's day. It's a reminder that we all have the ability to create those little moments of joy for others.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit, this next story takes us to the aftermath of a natural disaster. Volunteers came together to help rebuild homes.
What's really incredible about this one is the sense of community that emerges from all the rubble. It's like people just instinctively know to help each other out in times of crisis.
It's almost like, witnessing the human spirit at its best. People from all walks of life coming together, putting their own needs aside, and focusing on rebuilding not just homes, but lives.
Exactly. It's a reminder that we're all interconnected and that when one of us falls, we have the power to lift each other up.
It's like that saying, it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of communities supporting their own, we have another story from Edinburgh, Scotland, where a local convenience store did something truly remarkable for their elderly customers during the pandemic.
So this was about a store that recognized how vulnerable their older customers were and decided to do something about it. They started offering free coronavirus packs filled with essential items. They even started delivering to those who couldn't leave their homes.
Can you imagine how much anxiety and fear that must, alleviated for those folks?
Mhm.
It's a reminder that businesses can be a real force for good, especially during times of crisis.
It's about looking out for each other and recognizing that everyone deserves help, especially those who are most vulnerable.
This next story kind of echoes that sentiment, that helping hand, but this time it comes from strangers. It's about a mother who lost her purse, and what happened next is, well, it's just incredible.
Losing your purse is so stressful. But in this case, a group of strangers saw how distressed she was, and they stepped in to help. They pooed their money to make sure she could buy groceries. They basically saved the day.
I love that. It's such a powerful reminder that even when things seem bleak, there's always hope. Hope in the kindness of others. Sometimes it's those unexpected acts of generosity that restore our faith in humanity.
It's like those strangers just saw her as another person in need, and they responded with empathy and compassion. Really beautiful to see.
So this next story showcases that same spirit of helping, but in a different way. It's about someone who started an online mentorship program, connecting with students all over the world who need a little guidance and support.
This is a great example of how technology can be used for good, right?
Yeah.
This person saw a need and took the initiative to create a platform that connects people across continents, offering free tutoring and career advice to students in need.
It's like they're building a global village, knowledge and support shared freely. And in a world that can often feel so divided, it's heartwarming to see someone using their skills to empower others and create a sense of community that goes beyond borders.
It shows that even in the digital age, human connection can not only thrive, but it can make a real difference in people's lives.
Okay, ready for a real tearjerker. This next story is about a man who couldn't visit his wife in a nursing home because of, pandemic restrictions.
Oh, this one gets me every time. To celebrate their 67th anniversary, he stood outside her window with a sign expressing his love.
Talk about enduring love. It's a beautiful reminder that even when we're physically separated, those deep connections remain strong.
It's about finding ways to connect with the people we love no matter what, even in the face of adversity. And it's about never giving up on those connections, no matter the obstacles.
It's amazing how love just finds a way, even when things are tough. It really shows how resilient we are. Okay, so this next story takes us back to the power of community. It's about a group of people who did something really special for an elderly man who was facing a potentially lonely birthday.
Oh, I love this one. So instead of letting him spend his birthday all alone, the community put together this whole drive-by parade, honking cars, people waving, just this outpouring of love and celebration.
Such a simple gesture, right?
Yeah.
But the impact is huge. Turns a day that could have been full of isolation into a day filled with joy and connection.
Yeah, and it shows you don't need these grand gestures to make a difference. Sometimes it's the small acts of kindness that have the biggest impact.
Absolutely. And sometimes those ripples of kindness, those are what help people find their feet, especially when they're starting over. That's what happened in this story about a family. They were fleeing domestic violence.
This one really shows how powerful a welcoming community can be. This family, they got to this new town with nothing, literally the clothes on their backs. And the community, they rallied around them. They provided furniture, clothes, but most importantly, they gave them support.
Yeah, it's like they've given a safety net, a soft place to land during a really tough time. Makes you realize how important it is to create spaces where people feel safe and supported, especially folks who are vulnerable.
It's about recognizing that everyone deserves a chance to rebuild their lives. And sometimes the best way to help is just, offering a sense of belonging.
This final story takes us to a different kind of compassion, the kind that goes beyond just us humans. It's about an animal shelter volunteer, someone who goes above and beyond for the animals.
I'm a sucker for these kinds of stories. This volunteer spends his time brushing special needs cats, giving them the comfort and attention they might not get otherwise.
It's a good reminder that compassion has no limits, right? It's about seeing the worth in all living beings, even those who can't speak up for themselves.
And it's about finding joy in these little acts of kindness, even if it's just spending a few minutes brushing a cat.
Looking back on all these stories, it's amazing to see how they each show a different side of us,
Yeah.
our empathy, our need to connect, and our resilience.
What gets me is just how different all these human connections are. We've seen communities rebuilding and these quiet moments of individual kindness. It's all woven together into this tapestry of human experience.
It's like a kaleidoscope of empathy and compassion, each story showing a different shade of the human heart.
And what's so inspiring is how these small acts that can have such a big impact. Think about that trash collector, the one who changed his route for that little kid. That one act probably made the day of that little boy, his family, anyone who saw it.
Like those acts of kindness, they just set off a chain reaction, inspiring others to pass it on, spread a little positivity.
Exactly. And that brings us to, well, a really important point, how connected we all are. These stories, they're all different, but they point to something we all share, this need to connect, to help, to be part of something bigger.
It's like we're all threads in this giant tapestry. Each story adds to the richness of the whole design. And even with all the challenges in life, these stories remind us how strong the human spirit is.
Like that man celebrating his anniversary outside his wife's window, or that whole community coming together for that birthday.
It's like a tiny ember of hope that just keeps glowing no matter how strong the wind blows.
That's a good message to remember, don't you think? Even when things are dark, there's always a spark of light waiting to be, well, kindled.
Definitely. These stories remind us of the good that's in all of us.
And that good often comes out in these simple acts of kindness and moments of connection when we just recognize our shared humanity.
It's like we all have a superpower, the ability to make a difference, big or small.
And when we multiply those acts, when they spread out and inspire others, it can create a wave of change, something that can change communities, even the whole world.
Like a chain reaction of compassion,
Yeah.
right? One act leading to another and another.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a powerful thought, isn't it? That each of us can be a catalyst for good, help build a more compassionate world.
As we wrap up, I want to ask our listeners something. What really stuck with you from these stories?
What part resonated with you? And maybe even more importantly, what will you take away from this whole exploration of human connection?
As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm just left with this feeling of hope These stories from X, they're not just, those feel-good stories. They're glimpses into what it means to be human.
It really has been heartwarming. And I think we got to remember these stories, they're not just random things that happen. They show us something real about people.
That kindness and empathy, love, it's all like a part of us.
Exactly. It's part of who we are, even if we don't always see it.
It's like a hidden river flowing underneath, just waiting to be, discovered.
And what these stories show us is that finding that river, it ain't hard. Could be a smile, helping someone out, or just really connecting with someone.
It's about seeing the human in everyone, even if they seem different.
And knowing that what we do, even the small stuff, it can make things better, not just for us, but for others too.
So before we go, we want to leave you with something to think about. What's one kind thing you can do today? Something to add to all this good stuff we've been talking about.
What little thing can you do? Make someone's day. Offer some support. Spread a little love.
Because really, it's these little acts of kindness all over the place that create a world where we care for each other, connect, and bounce back from tough times.
A world where we can all feel that heartbeat of humanity.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep your hearts open to all the amazing things about being human.